Hi, everyone. Welcome to G Niger TV on our program, The Big Mic. My name is Olatunde, and with me is a special guest today. I'm sure you have all been waiting. Is one of those things, and we're hoping to actually do. I believe we are looking to do better. So, let me introduce my special guest, the newly elected Labour member. Me, I'm not a Labour. I'm not a Labour person. No. Me, I am concerned. I am concerned. But I like Labour when they bring something that will empower us financially. I would like to actually introduce my special guest, Honorable the Councillor for Stevenage and Hertfordshire, Akin Elekolusi. So over to you. So how are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. Today, thanks a lot for the introduction. And hello, everybody. My name is Akin Elekolusi, newly elected. I'm just a rookie councillor, like I call myself. Newly elected in May.
Don't be fooled by the rookie. Oh. He might not have been a councillor for a long time. He is a season. When it comes to, you'll be seeing more of him anyway. You know, on our other program, which is the G Niger News Scope that we have daily. So it's going to be my co-host on there. But today is all about him. You know, on the big mic. So he has the big mic in front of him, and we're going to really, get into how he actually got into this. Because the storyline that I actually heard, or rather that I actually got, firsthand from you, was the fact that when all this actually got started, I didn't even know you were running. I know that you're always into, activism, you are into all this political. We are just the one that we're just looking at any party that's going to bring money. That's what we're interested So the key thing I just want to ask you is this. Let me, the first thing I just want to ask is this, what actually made you go into this? Why, as a councillor? Because I just think that, your life will be kind of disrupted. What's the motivation for you for going into this?
Okay, thank you. That's a very good question, actually. Thanks for asking me. I've always, like you said earlier, or like you alluded, I've always been an activist, so to speak, politically and socially in the community. We moved to Stevenage. Coincidentally, we left London about 24 years ago. And
Okay.
when we moved to this area, the locals here made us feel very welcome. I don't think I don't, at the top of my head, over the years, no serious racially adverse incidents happened to either myself or my family. In fact, it's been the reverse. The locals have been very welcoming to us. I remember when we had my first child, the way they received us when we came back from hospital was overwhelming. It was even an emotional moment, emotionally surreal moment, because all the neighbors in my close came out one by one just to welcome the baby. It was really nice. And ever since then, we felt at peace. It was as if I was watching a movie that day. I couldn't believe they were all coming up with gifts, cards, and I was, So they made us feel at ease from day one when we moved to Stevenage. And I always felt at the back of my mind I needed to give back to the community. We successfully raised my two children in the area, but one has graduated, the other one is still in uni. So we're just so thankful to. So looking at all those things, and the way when I ran a business in the community, the way I was received and supported, everything just came full circle. So over the years, I had always advocated for people. I had always, liaised with the local MP on issues to do with housing, immigration, various issues, personal issues that affected people. And I always used to advocate for them at council level. So, and over the years, certain people that always asked me, that would I want to be a councillor? And I always used to rebuff on that idea that that would really be too much, because I'll be too busy, blah blah blah, that I couldn't juggle both lifestyles. So that question had always been coming back to me for as long as about 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
About a year ago, I was asked again. And because the person just felt I needed to, he felt that because I'm so passionate about the development of Stevenage and I had seen so much about the development, social aspects, and both the social aspects and the physical aspects of the development of the town, he felt that it would be useful for me to be a voice in the community and at that level. So I said, I'll think about it. I said, I'll think about it this time. The person was surprised because it was a party member, because I've been a Labour Party member for almost 30 years. So he was shocked this time. And then they reached out to me.
I didn't even know you were into this. I think that was a part of you were hiding because we didn't see it.
Yeah, a lot. Funny enough, a lot of our mutual friends they were all surprised that they actually told me that they didn't even know that I was seriously into politics like this. All they said was what you said earlier on about my passion for political issues and social issues. So this time I agreed, and then they, called me to an interview. I went through 2 interviews, interview processes.
Wow.
And I was unanimously selected to be a Labour Party candidate for the local elections. So, and then we went out canvassing for votes. And you see, this is the beauty of Stevenage as well, because it's a predominantly white community, even as we speak. I think it's only 3% of the community that is ethnic minority. It's overwhelmingly we're a huge minority in terms of the BAME community in the area. So the wider community have been very, very receptive and very friendly.
Okay. So what I just want to actually find out, further from you is that, okay, so you had to go through all the process to be able to get in there now. Now, what are the priorities for you now that you are actually in? What's the actual priorities for you now? What are the 3 top priorities, I would say, now that you've actually, you've gotten in successfully? So what are they?
Yeah, thanks. One of the things I've always been passionate about within Stevenage is youth and employment.
Okay.
I remember before the elections and I was canvassing around, I engaged a lot of locals on the issue when I was door knocking.
Okay.
One of my priorities, electoral priorities, campaign priorities, was that I was going to, make sure that we tackle youth unemployment in Stevenage. It's a huge problem. It's a huge area because I remember I used to mentor youths back then when I owned the shop.
Okay.
And I used to counsel them on a lot of issues, and thankfully some of them turned out right. Sadly, we lost 1 or 2 of them to issues around. Yeah, so those were very sad moments for me. But overall, overwhelmingly, the experience has been very pleasing because a lot of those guys are very responsible young men today. Men. So they're married. Some of them are married, have children. In gainful employment.
Okay.
So seeing that thing that I did back then on the local level, on a smaller scale, it actually encouraged me that going forward, that will be an area I want to get involved in, liaise with the local companies, because we have a hub of very big companies in Stevenage, from Airbus to GSK to MBDA, the missiles defense systems people, to Fujitsu. We even have a Costco now in Stevenage. So there are a lot of companies that one can engage with locally, and I would have a CSR responsibility to the youth of the town. I'd actually engage with them to make sure that we tackle this head on as an issue. Now that's one. The other area is social housing. Central government over the years, especially with the Tory, your people, so to speak.
Okay. my special people.
Your special people, yeah. So they stopped building. We've been selling a lot of social housing stock, through the right to buy scheme. The Tories have allowed that over the years, but have not allowed local governments to build, and then replace the housing stock that they've lost through right to buy. So that's an area that I've come on board, and I've said, as a councillor, as a local councillor, I intend to tackle and actually help improve the situation. So we get people off waiting housing lists and into affordable housing or social housing. And then the other area is the provision of social amenities. So, common amenities like parks, making sure that future development plans don't impact on, usable spaces for the community. So, because we have a lot of green areas in Stevenage, which we are proud of, and we want to keep that way. So, so those 3 areas are very strong targets that I would love to meet during my term and help improve on and help impact on.
Okay. So let me ask you this, right? When you were actually going to get this started, right? I mean, when you were going for the election, I mean, what was it like for you? Did you truly believe, because I remember when I spoke to you round about that time where you won, there was this excitement, like everybody was shocked because, you said at that time that they were already telling you that, don't worry, next time, in fact, you see now that council over there, he went like 3 times. So everybody was just sitting there, you were just relaxed, like, okay, fine. And they've not even really said, they've not really, called out the results yet, so your result wasn't called out, but it was almost like a common consensus, like, normally a first time, say, councillor that is actually vying for this position, is not expected. The expectation is being tampered, so they're not really like looking at you to be able to win. So it was more like, just, take your time. Don't worry. You have many, all those ones that they've been there like about 3-4 times. I'm sure you'll be wondering, when it's not like you're going to live forever. So what was it like for you when that actually happened?
Oh, thanks to yeah. So like you rightly said, it was as if you were in the hall with me when you narrated that actually, because when they kept on telling me all those things, in a way, it was for me to manage my expectations. By the end of the day, I was thinking within myself, boy, you guys have been at this for so long. So they kept on telling me, oh, first timers don't win this thing. Usually you will come back and you contest again in another 2-3 years' time. And we just wanted you to go and make an impact there on the votes, make a dent on the votes because it was a predominantly Tory area we were asked to go and contest in. The Labour Party hadn't won there for 14 years. So
okay.
It was a way of them helping me to minimize my expectations of what was going to happen. Because we had been there, they had told us the protocol was for us to get there. The security protocol was for us to get there before 10, between 9:30 and 10 a.m. But the whole day was going to last till about 8 p.m. Because there are 13 wards they had to count. And, they wouldn't be able to count everything at the same time. So the results will be coming out gradually. So the result of my ward, that of the 13 wards, came up around 3 p.m. So I had been there from around 9:30. So they had told us to prepare for a long day. So when they announced the thing, and the guy announced my name and the figures and all that, and everyone turned around and was looking at me, and I stood there in the hall and I was thinking, why are they looking at me? That kind of thing, like you will fix eyes on you. And everyone was like, they were in shock. They were looking at me and saying, you won. And I was looking behind me, who are they talking to?
Who are they talking to?
They said you. So I was like, whoa. And at that moment, like I always describe it was a surreal experience. It was an out of body experience because I was looking at myself and thinking, no, this is a movie. I'm watching this on TV. It was a mixture of everything so they were all hugging us, the three of us that had gone there to win, and they were congratulating us. And then one of the existing councillors, one of the older councillors came up to me and wanted to shake my hand and said, hello, councillor. And I was
who are you talking to?
I was looking behind me. He said, no, you don't get this. He said, you're a councillor now. He said, you're a councillor. And then he said, your life has changed forever. That from this moment on, your life has changed forever. That go and clear your diary for next week. Your life has changed. And I'll kid you not, my life actually changed that instant because I started getting calls while I was in the hall. Some people were calling me and said they've seen my name on the BBC website. That did I contest in politics? And I was like, whoa, I can't hide this. I really can't hide this anymore.
Just like that.
Just like that. So I could see how my life was going to change. And then, of course, the CEO of the council, who was the returning officer at the election, came up to congratulate us. And, we signed the electoral winning certificate. And from that moment on, I was introduced to the key members within the council that we needed to liaise with, and that was how my life changed forever.
Wow.
Ever since then, in fact, saying that too, because I think I'm only just getting used to being called a councillor, maybe within the last few weeks. Because I remember when I was telling one of the councillors, so you never get used to it until a few months down the line. So obviously since May when it happened, I didn't get used to it. So now I'm feeling more comfortable. Then I know it's me people are talking to now when I'm around them, but before I never used to.
Look at, you're not like, who are you talking to?
So I'm getting more comfortable in the role now.
Now, the other question I want to ask you is this, so what do you see as the biggest challenges facing your local council right now? And how do you intend to address them? You said something partly, but, focusing on this, on this in itself. What do you think, is the, what are the biggest challenges, and how do you want to address those?
Oh, thanks. From what I've seen so far from working within the council and getting to speak to the key players, on both sides, like with the residents and with the hierarchy of the council, the senior hierarchy of the council, the leadership team, I've noticed that finance is a major constraint. Like we all know across the
Okay.
UK,
Of course. Everywhere in the world, that one is definite.
it's a major the austerity period of the last Tory government hasn't helped. So a lot of in the last 14 years, the central government has actually cut back funding in a lot of areas for local councils. And looking at all the figures, because I'm on some committees now. I've been assigned to some committees within the council, so I'm privy to some information that obviously what we don't know of before. I can clearly see that the challenges for local councils are huge now, and that's why I don't know whether you're aware. I think Thurrock, off the back of my head, and Birmingham went bankrupt. They went bankruptcy a year or two ago. So, and there are other special measures right now. So, quite a few councils around the country, big councils as well, they are feeling the impact of the financial strain and that has been placed upon them. But thankfully, Stevenage, we're trying to get by. We're making cutbacks. We're making adjustments to survive. But it hasn't helped that we've had to, a lot of services have had to, either be streamlined or, mothballed for a while. That's so finance is one major area. And then balancing that financial constraint with the provision of social housing is another trick that we're trying to work out solutions for. So those are huge challenges because social housing, like I said before, is a very passionate area of mine, and I really feel for people because in a rich country like Britain, people shouldn't be living in some of the conditions I saw going around as a candidate.
Yeah,
and then asking for votes, and that touched me because I saw some situations where I'm like, no, it can't be happening in modern day Britain. A family, for instance, of about 7 people living in a tiny, I won't even say it's a 2-bed flat. It was a one and a half bed flat. So literally they're sleeping on top of each other. And I'm like, wow, in Britain, that shouldn't be happening. So that just goes to show the constraints within the system, the bottlenecks that we're seeing in terms of social housing and the lack of social housing. I mean, you and I both know maybe about 30 years ago, that wouldn't have happened in Britain, So the country has changed, like the world has changed. We all know that. But we need, I think those are areas that need to still be addressed. So that's a major constraint that I want to help with.
Okay. So now one other thing that I know that is quite big, when Britain was, this is pre-Brexit, when they're talking about the actual environment itself, so that was a big concern, in terms of the countries in the West, especially, trying to create this global initiative, ensuring that we have a sustainable art, like environment itself. Now, although me too, I have my own reservation. I'm not really sold entirely into, when they talk about carbon footprints, saving, saving the environment. I do up to a degree, but at the same time, when I see the government sort of, I won't say, what's the word, which is they sort of empowered, governments of the world essentially to sort of, turn it into money making machine. So, coming down to your side, so what I would like to actually understand is, so what plans do you intend to take to promote sustainable and environmental, viable environment in your community?
Oh, thank you. That's a very good question because coincidentally, I think that we have a responsibility to the generation and many generations that will be coming after us in terms of the way we use the resources we have on Earth. And right now, I think that we've learned over the years we've over abused using those resources in terms of burning of coal. That has caused a lot of problems. Generating energy through coal-fired transmission energy stations. So coal is thankfully we've scaled down from that in Britain. There's more gas-fired and all that, and then we're even leaning towards meeting some green emission targets in the next decade or so. So I mean, Britain has actually played a huge role in trying to meet some of those zero emission targets. But I think, drilling down to my local level, I've become quite engaged on some of those issues as well in terms of sustainability and promoting green issues within the community, within my ward.
Okay.
So we have some projects that we're doing at the moment that we're consulting the local residents on, and actually asking them, what they want to get done in terms of what parts of the world. And we've identified 1 or 2 areas where we're going to do it, where we'd have some like eco-friendly and sustainable funded ideas, sustainably funded ideas, where the community, it will be for communal use, but at the same time, it would actually enhance, that vision of making Stevenage a very sustainable place to live in terms of the ecosystem and being eco-friendly. So that's something I've always believed in it, but I think more so now as a councillor, I'm getting more engaged in it. So, and that's a new area for me as well, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm seeing how, if we do it as a collaboratively around the world, if it's done, the world will be a better place to live. Because right now, the third world is going to suffer for this if we don't get our act right in the Western world.
Of course.
Yeah. Especially places like Africa will feel the adverse effects of climate change if we don't address the huge problems we have in the West with energy use.
So the other thing I just want to ask as well, I mean, how do you envision supporting local businesses and fostering economic growth in your area? Now, as somebody who have had a business, I know that you've had a business in the area. So how would you be able to sort of, reference your experience, in being able to provide, for the environment in terms of the economic growth?
Oh, thanks. Like I mentioned earlier on, we right now, in fact, the council always has, we have 1 or 2 engagement activities with local businesses through their CSR needs, because some of them are obviously the high-end businesses, but for the smaller businesses, we have 1 or 2 interactions with them, obviously, because they come to us for certain things, and there are a lot of funding mechanisms that we use as well within the local council to help promote business initiatives within the community. So off the top of my head, and I know that because I get regular emails from small businesses and all that, and charity organizations. Thankfully there's a small, how would I call it, business ecosystem. That's the way I'll term it, where we can actually, a small business ecosystem where we can actually engage with them and then help drive some of the initiatives that we want to get done in the community. And one of the areas really is about, youth unemployment. Another area is about getting these youths actively engaged in the provision of employment opportunities, and then getting them upskilled as well. Because I think it's very important for us, like they say, the devil would always give work to idle hands. So,
very true.
If you don't upskill a youth today, you are creating a criminal for tomorrow. So, so I'm a big advocate of, if you want to sleep with both eyes in your house and, you don't want social upheaval around you, empower people economically. So, and I think that's why I'm so engaged in this youth unemployment thing, so, yeah. So when you link that up with how we can actually help foster, good business relationships from the council level to the small businesses in the community, I think there can be a synergy of ideas there, and it can help us going forward as well.
Okay. So now, one thing that I just wanted to ask as well is, so do you think, being a member of the Labour Party, now that Labour is actually back in power, Obviously there's a bit of difference in that. So what advantage do you think that actually brings to you, or it doesn't really matter? It's all down to how you're able to, take charge and face head on the challenges and all. So does that actually give you an edge? In Nigeria now, if you're a member of APC, don't worry, I'm not going to say too much. But if you're a member of APC, you're an officer of APC, for instance, the government has the power. All the challenges is, everything. So don't worry. The power of the states, the might of the nation, is behind you. So for you personally, so what's your experience? I mean, does that bring any leverage for you, or doesn't really matter?
Well, thanks. That's a very good question as well. It does in a way, because when your parties are in government centrally at national level, it helps. And then it helps as well that the local MP as well, who happens to be a very good friend of mine, the newly elected MP, he's Labour as well. So Labour won this seat. Labour lost this seat 14 years ago, and so it became Tory. But Labour has now won it back again. So we won it in July. So the local MP now, one of the MPs, the local MP now is Labour. And then we have a Labour-dominated council as well. So out of the 39 councillors in Stevenage, there are 32 of us are Labour. So it's overwhelmingly Labour.
Wow,
so
okay.
It helps. So that's why I'm painting that picture. So you understand how. So both at within council level and at national level, there can be a synergy of ideas. It's very easy now to implement things. Whereas if you had a Tory-led national government imposing austerity ideas, and we are trying to see how we can spend money on things like housing and all that, and we're not being funded properly, and matching up in some of the policy ideas we have, would always be at loggerheads, and things won't get moving, but the residents will know that's why we're having a jam. So it's important that it's very easy. It's much easier when the party that you belong to is the one in power nationally, and you can get things done locally quickly.
Okay, all right. So now I want to talk about diversity and inclusion. How would you ensure that your policies are inclusive and reflect the diverse needs of our community? Remember, you said earlier that currently the council makeup, right, in terms of the local government for your area is now predominantly Labour. So under democratic dispensation, you're supposed to have proportional representatives of other party. Not like some places we know that once you are there like this, hey, that's it. Nobody, you don't get a look in. You have to be begging. In fact, you better change party if you want to. So how would you sort of, I mean, in your view, do you think is that a plus, or that would be a minus? Because when you're talking about diversity now, obviously it's always good to actually have the opposition there as well. They will obviously they will bring their ideas. I know. Do you think they will get a fair chance? Especially seeing that it's predominantly Labour. If I was living in your area, I would sell my house and move.
You this story, man.
I will move.
We only have one Tory councillor now in the whole of Stevenage.
Are you serious? Only one? That bad?
Six Lib Dems, one Tory, and then 32 Labour. Yeah, 39 of us.
Wow.
So I feel for that Tory guy as well. Actually, just one of there were 9 before, so they lost 8 seats at the last election. So yeah, so it's
6. They lost 6.
8. They lost 8 out of 9. The Tories. So there's only one. So yeah, and there's 6 Lib Dems. So the Lib Dems are our opposition party, main opposition party now. So they have the opposition leader. But like you see, the beauty of Western politics and the beauty of Western democracies, it's not perfect. We all know. We saw what the damage Trump did in America with democracy, with the democratic ideals.
I do not agree with you on that one.
All right,
what do you mean by? What do you mean? So let's leave that one. Just leave that one alone. You mean the damage that who has been in government for the? I know these are the. This is like a digression.
When I was talking about
who has been in power for the past 4 years.
No. What I was even saying about the damage he did was like when he, what they did on Capitol Hill, all that insurrection thing nonsense that happened. So it's not a perfect democracy in the Western world. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay,
But
all right, okay. I
but
thought that I wanted to say don't go near that
no, no,
area.
no. I wasn't being critical of whether it was Trump or Biden or whatever. No, it's just that to paint a picture. So for people that obviously, so one is not coming up with the idea that Western democracies are perfect. No, they're not. But it's ever evolving. They're getting to a stage where they've been very mature with their own ideals of democracy. So when you drill it down to what I was saying earlier on of having just 6 Lib Dem councillors and 1 Tory councillor within the council, we still hear them, we still listen to them. They talk sometimes and they oppose some of the motions that were about to pass in council, and because the people have to state what they want to say on record.
Oh,
So
of course.
whether and that is the beauty of Western. That's where I was going with it. That's the beauty of. So whether we're a majority or not doesn't matter. They will state their own point of view. We would override them with our own votes, but that doesn't mean that they're not being heard. And then of course, we have chats with them. We don't behave as if, oh, because you are Lib Dem, you are Tory, you are my enemy, we're going to kill ourselves. It's not that kind of adversarial politics. So I enjoy it. I mean, some of the Lib Dem councillors are my very good friends that I make friends with. Yeah. So, and it's a beauty seeing it, how this works, on the inside of being on the inside of British politics, and how matured it is in terms of the rivalry, so to speak. It's not adversarial. It's not an adversarial contest, because at the end of the day, you are all fighting for the same thing, for the benefit of your ward, your constituents, your residents. You are fighting for the progress that they should get from the council in terms of what we're trying to get to. So everyone is in there for the same thing. We're just wearing different colors. You wear blue, I wear red. I'm talking about you particularly wearing Tory.
Our own is nicer. So
oh, you think blue is nicer?
Yeah, the one in the UK, not the one in America. I'm an external American. I am red. And in Nigeria, I don't have any color. In Nigeria, I'm apolitical.
I think it's better to just stay neutral. That's what I do.
I am.
I'm so apolitical when it comes to Nigeria.
I can't wait when we actually have, tomorrow when we actually go down that route. Yeah. I'm telling you, there is so much down there. So the question I want, I think I've just got 2 more questions to actually ask you. So the other the question I want to ask you now is about collaboration with other councils. So how important is collaboration with neighboring councils, and what initiatives do you think could benefit from such partnership?
Yeah. Well, seeing what I've noticed recently from obviously being a short-term councillor, and how we cooperate with the neighboring councils. I see how the councils cooperate with one another, because we share statistics, we share for planning. There are planning issues where we have to cooperate because there are boundary, areas within the, each one of the district councils. You have your own boundary. What do we call them? Property investors and developers will come, and we want to actually, we have to look at plans as it impacts the boundaries of the surrounding councils. So there's a lot of collaboration that goes back and forth. It's with respective councils, and of course we use statistics of demographics from the councils to actually see where we are in terms of how are we in comparison to this council in this area, how are we in comparison with that council in that area. So there's always a lot of cooperation, a lot of collaboration that goes on between the respective councils, because at the end of the day, local council, like I was sharing with some people months ago, it's so nice to see how it works, because from the national government, there's no state in between. In terms of policy implementation, it goes straight to the local councils to implement. So the local councils actually, over time, you find out that they have to help one another in terms of meeting some of those national objectives to be met. So that's very impactful in the area.
Okay, so the last question, well, not exactly the last question, but so in terms of your long-term vision, looking ahead, what is your long-term vision to your community, and how do you plan to work towards achieving it?
to when you say my community, my ward, or the blame
No,
community?
to your ward itself, because your primary this in there is to your ward really that you actually represent. So what's the vision for them? I mean, you had the key man there, you had the point man there, and I'm sure
Yeah,
they're actually looking to you to hold you responsible.
of course. No, trust me. There's a lot of accountability within politics over here. So you're held
Okay.
to account for a lot of. We always have monthly surgeries. So
Okay.
the last Saturday of every month, myself and my co-councillors, the three of us, we advertise our surgeries, and then the locals know the dates, and they come and meet us and engage with us on ideas. People send emails. I've lost count the number of emails I've been getting since I became councillor, because from day one you're bombarded with emails. So it
Okay.
comes from all
Wow.
directions, from within and without the council. People get your emails straight away and they start sending emails. That's the beauty of representative democracy, in the Western world, because they know that if they come to you, the issue will get sorted out. So,
Okay.
and in most cases, I'm very thankful that I've been able to use my God-given position to help sort out those issues. So people come to you, and my vision for my ward particularly is to make sure that we leave it and actually make it a better place to live. Stevenage, thankfully, my ward is one of the best wards in Stevenage in terms of um, the development that has happened over the years. There are there are one or two more deprived wards, but we want to make sure that in terms of, we have some beautification ideas that we're trying to get done. Provision of social housing. That we recently opened the first independent living assisted unit for pensioners, the blueprint building for pensioners in Stevenage, in my ward. So we're very proud of that. We opened that just 2 months ago. Obviously, the whole thing was in motion before we became councillors, but they've just completed the whole thing. But it's a blueprint of how people can live independently, when they're retired. And a lot of, I think if we roll it out across Stevenage, but it's good to know that my ward actually was where the first one was built. So going from there, we're trying to make sure that we bring other things to my ward as well, and make sure that we help improve that area. So we're looking at other areas right now where we can help improve things visually. We've done a bit of walk around the area, engage with the local residents on what they need. We've captured what they want and what they want to get done. So there's a lot of work to be done ahead, and I'm very passionate. Myself and my co-councillors, my two co-councillors, were very passionate about being one of the best wards in Stevenage. So we'll make sure we get it done.
Okay, wow, that's fantastic. So the other thing that I would just like to just round up with essentially is that what do you think? We have the minorities, in this country, and how do you think you can encourage them? Because when others see someone that looks like them, whether they be brown, white, or because I always try to see this is that most black people especially are underrepresented. You understand? In we can see people like who are breaking new grounds, Sunak, for instance, former prime minister, even though that is from my party, but then I wasn't really, feeling him like that because people used to say things like identity politics. I don't buy into it. I just, I don't ascribe to it. I just tell people, look at the policy. It's the policy that speaks. If I see, like Stammer, for instance, as far as I'm concerned, yes, I'm not. Obviously, I've said that to you already. I'm not a member of the, Labour Party, but his policy are not attractive. So that's my view anyway. So it's not really about, so that decision that I'm not lending any support. When I say I'm not lending any support, there is no buy-in from me into it. So because from what I'm seeing in terms of even in his foreign policy, as far as I'm concerned, I think even within my own party, I don't like their foreign policy, especially the issue between Ukraine and Russia, because I thought we are supposed to be, blessed are the peacemakers. You know, we're not supposed to be helping to pour petrol. I don't know what we're trying to prove. You know, especially when we know where the states of our armed forces are currently. Yeah, you want to go and pick. You know, you want to pick a fight, hoping that America will, you know, whether you are in bed or in court with the US, you know, it's a different thing. So really, you know, how would you, you know, encourage, you know, minorities, especially Black people, to actually come into this? You know, how would you sort of say, okay, look at it, I'm here, I'm starting out as a councillor. We have somebody now who might be within my own party, you know, Kemi, you know, there are only two, you know, there's a race to become the next the leader of the Tory party, you know, and it's quite you know, it's actually, in fact, let me put it this way, it's really refreshing. You know, it's really refreshing to see a Black person, you know, standing there. Of course, she is British. She's looking after the British interest. Absolutely. It's not like she's going to be in there for Black people's interest, but she is there holding her own. Do you understand? While at the same time, you know, saying, this is me. Do you understand? You know, so although, like I said, right, we're going to be having a subsequent, you know, program on the Big Mic where we're going to identify that Nigerians in diaspora who are sort of maintained, you know, who they are, you know. She didn't change her name. Her name is still Kemi. Exactly. You know, do you understand? So she's there, she's strong. Look at her hair, you know, good representation. You know, she's not shying away from who she is. You know, she has a conviction, you know, speaks confidently and all. So, you know, seeing that, you know, what do you think you could do personally in your own role as a councillor for, you know, Stevenage, for, you know, Hertfordshire, that to encourage the Black, you know, the Black community there, the youth who actually you know, who are growing there, to sort of emulate what you are doing? What do you think you could do?
Oh, thanks for that. In fact, your short speech that led to that question was very good. Like I always say, you know, we should never be judged by the color of our skin, as the King once said, but by the content of our character. So when it comes to content of character, it means a lot. So what are you bringing to the table as a person, as a politician, as you know, so it transcends skin color.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what you were alluding to as well. So, you know, your policies need to resonate with people, with the wider people, with your residents, your constituents. You know, so it's nothing to do with race, really. At the end of the day, if you're an effective politician, and Kemi Badenoch has, you know, actually has proved that, because if someone had told me just 30, 40 years ago that the Black person would be trying to lead the Labour, the Conservative Party, I would say
exactly. You know, I would have actually, I thought it would be happening in the Labour Party. Exactly, it's actually Labour. It's actually Labour that I felt will have been doing that. You know,
I wouldn't put a pound on that happening, let alone you wouldn't anything. So, you know, so it just goes to show the possibilities of what can happen if you're being true to yourself and where you come from. And I remember when I was canvassing for votes in Stevenage, for instance, there was a house I knocked on in my ward. In all my canvassing, on the days we were canvassing in the cold in winter, I hardly bumped into Black families, but there was this particular Black family I bumped into. The woman opened the door. She saw that I was she saw my face on the lift. I said, oh, that she was so excited. I said, that's even your face. It's you. We got talking. It turns out she's a Nigerian, and she was so excited. So she said, oh, we don't vote normally in this house, but because of you, my whole household, I can vouch for you, my whole household will vote this time. And that struck me, because not only was she one of the few Black families I encountered on my trips around there, but it was predominantly white area. Okay. But it now struck me that our community, we've not really engaged properly in the political process. Nope. We've been very quiet. So what I've been doing, I've done it twice now since I became councillor. I've actually spoken to some church congregations, and you know, because I wanted to know, you know, just like you were likely asking, how, you know, why, like I tell people, it's God to start with, because I don't think it's by my own doing that, because I don't have any previous track record in politics. So there wasn't anything for me. I don't live in the world.
Yeah, that was very key to me. That was, in fact, is one of the key things I had in mind, that, look, that we had to literally reach out to you, to sort of, you know, talk about that, because
it's a miraculous, I'm telling you, it's a miracle. And then first timers don't win. So the odds were literally against me.
Exactly. You know, so that actually broke that, I don't know where that guy, who has said,
It brought him out. So
when God has not spoken.
Exactly. So my story is a big story, and it's a big story of God's greatness and testament of God's glory. And I remember, and I said I'm going to use this platform to be of benefit to people. So I want this to be a testament to people out there, and a big testimony that, there's nothing impossible that we can't achieve. If don't limit yourself. Don't say because I live in a white area, I don't want to put myself forward. I didn't do that. If I had done that, we won't be talking about this today. So I didn't say, oh, the odds are against me, the Labour Party wants to elect me, because even going through that process alone, to be recognized to lead, to go out there to be a delegate for a major political party in Britain is a huge task. Not to talk of now going there to seek for votes. So it was if I had looked at the mountain and the peak of it, I wouldn't have tried to attempt it. What I was looking at was each step. I was just taking each step one by one. And that's what I did. Wow. If I had focused on the Kilimanjaro or the Everest before me, when you go to the top, you say, I can't do it. But I didn't do that. I was just going one step at a time. I said, God, just lead me through this. And I think it's how we need to look at life. We should never doubt God. We should never look at a mountain, because God can turn every mountain to a valley. That's not an issue. And then we shouldn't look at the problem, but we should actually see ourselves as, I'm focused, I'm determined, I want to do this. I leave the rest to God. So coming down to the BAME community, I just feel we need to be more engaged. I've sensitized the church congregations I spoke to on the need for us to be more engaged in the political process.
Sure.
We need to be more engaging in the community. What I found is, and I've cascaded this to people within the council and all that, because we have the demographics, but we don't know where these guys, we don't even see them. They're not visible. So what we do is we live in certain areas of the town, and then we go to church, and that's just our interaction with the town, or we go shopping and we go back home. We don't do any community engagement stuff.
Wow.
So that's, but we need to. There needs to be a different strategy to this. So what I've been trying to do more recently is invite some of my co-councillors to go with me and worship in some of these churches, engage with some of the pastors, get to see those congregations. In fact, some of them were blown away. They didn't even know that those kind of congregations existed.
There are people like that there.
Yeah.
How I wish it's my party that is doing that there. But,
I remember even taking Kevin, the guy that won as an MP.
Okay.
Before the election, before the general election, I took him to one of the Redeemed churches in Stevenage. He was blown away. He enjoyed the service. He said he didn't even know that kind of church existed. He spoke to about 250 people. He said, and I remember him saying to me that he didn't even know that those kind of congregations, typical black congregations, existed in Stevenage.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And I told him, I said, off the top of my head, I can take you to about 3 or 4 of those kind of churches. And he was shocked. So there's so many things that need to be done, and I'm very conscious of it. And I've spoken to people in the ethnic minority community as well, that we need to be more engaging. And I want to bridge that gap. There's a gap at the moment, so it needs to be bridged. And I want God to use me as a major bridge in bridging that gap. Because I know that my story, the reason I told God, I said, there must be a reason why you've put me here, and God, I need to make it manifest. So if God has sent me and taken me so far on this journey, I think I'm seeing areas where I can be of use. And, and this is where I need to connect those two communities, our community with the wider community. It has to be more inclusive. It has to be more of, because once we have an inclusive communal environment, we're going to have fewer clashes, social clashes. We saw what happened some months ago with the riots. We're going to be more understanding of each other. We're going to be more tolerant towards each other. So right now, it's all based on ignorance, and it's fueling some of this madness. But when we start engaging with each other and we start coming with hands of equity, it's easy. Right now we're not. And that is what is causing all this tension, all the social tensions and all that is born out of, not only ignorance, but miseducation, miseducating youth, miseducating people's minds. So once we can get above all those things and actually realize that we're human at the end of the day, the social integration process will be a lot easier. So this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just be that bridge, And hopefully God would give me the strength, and I pray that He will give me the wisdom to go about this purposely.
Amen. Amen to that. Now, I think when I think about it, and when you look at our politics back home, what do you think? Do you think there might be some sort of, because obviously you're not the first person who has been of Nigerian heritage who has actually been in politics, so. And when you see some of the things that are happening over there, just in one word, this is not something that you're going to, what do you think should be done when you just look at the landscape in Nigeria, the way things are, the economic, just sum everything up for you that, you think because if you look at it right now, I'm sure you're pretty aware that to be in politics in Nigeria now, if it was back home, before you can say you want to go and do interview, they will say, look at that queue. They will say, so where's your godfather?
This is what a lot of, is what a lot of people told me, that you didn't have any godfather.
I was going to ask you too now that please, that's even if I should ask you this, please, who is your godfather in Stevenage?
God.
What do you mean that is God? I thought usually you have to have one Baba Saleh.
No. Because it was God. When God made me find favor in the eyes of people within the Labour Party. So Baba God, so, it's amazing when you see politics being done in a very, like I said, it's not as if it's a perfect system, but when you see it done in a more opaque way, in a more transparent way, without all this skullduggery of me having to have a godfather or bribing people or whatever, and or paying for one form or whatever, it was a more straightforward process. They interviewed me, and the two interviews were quite tough. And all they wanted to know mostly was, what are you bringing to the table as a person? Why would you want to represent the Labour Party? Because I'm representing a huge organization. Don't forget, anywhere I go, it's not my skin color they're looking at. First of all, is what comes out of my mouth. Two, I'm representing the Labour Party because I wear a Labour Party rosette, and I'm talking about on behalf of the Labour. So it's a huge responsibility. So they're not just going to choose any Tom, Dick, and Harry. So that's why I said it's God to start with. Now, when you now transpose that and look at our own political environment, and to sum it up, right now we just need to go back to basics. We've gone too far down this road of madness that we need to draw ourselves back from it. We're on the brink. We're on the brink of an abyss. And if care is not taken, it will descend into madness, chaos. So we need to bring ourselves back, because when you look, I reflect a lot recently, and I looked at countries like the UAE. I'm not going to compare us with the Western world, with the developed world. I'm looking at the UAE, Brazil, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. And those are countries that emancipated economically within the last 50 years that I'm talking about. Even China. China was a poor country 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Those countries have developed. And people don't realize how poor China was 50 years ago.
Oh, but very bad. If you see some of the pictures, you'll be amazed.
Yeah, you won't believe there's a safe society. And this is where you can see, this is in our lifetime, this has happened. So it goes to show that if you have visionary leadership, conscientious leadership, conscientious is a word, and you sustain it for a very long time. And so irrespective of who comes in every 4 years or every 10 years, doesn't matter. And maybe it will be done outside the democratic framework. I don't know, but I don't know what will work for anywhere in the world. But it's right. It's not even just the political framework that will carry this. It's that visionary thing, that zeal to achieve that target that matters. You have visionary leadership, you have conscientious leadership. So conscientious in the sense that we're not going to put all the money from the public treasury into our bank accounts. Conscientious in the word that the citizens matter. The citizens need to survive. The citizens need to have better public facilities, infrastructure, good schools, roads, hospitals. Nobody will want to leave that kind of country. So when sanity prevails in the system, you see that the citizens and all the metrics are met. Metrics of development are met for a country. You have all the indices that are working well. The educational targets are being met. Right now, I don't even want to even think of where we're talking about is going without being specific, because as a country, we're not meeting all those metrics at all. When there's no yardstick for it. People are starving as we speak. So where do people start from? So when we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So there's no sustained planning. There has to be an industrial goal for the country. There has to be an agro-allied kind of structure. So we'll build everything around, and it's all to do with planning. So this thing just comes back to everything I'm saying: visionary and conscientious leadership, sustainable over decades. It translates into countries like the UAE, Singapore, China, Malaysia. That's what it will translate into successful countries. And then it gives you political stability to survive as a country as well. Because right now we're concentrating on the wrong things.
Wow.
I've always said, and I remember saying it to, there's a Yoruba adage that a millionaire in the midst of very poor people is a very poor. So for everyone that's misappropriating funds and public funds and all that, I've seen the beauty of how it works here. I've decided on projects here, part of a planning process for millions of pounds worth of projects. Not one came into my hand. So, and I've been part of the process that made decisions on that. So I've seen how it works.
That's why I didn't come. That's why I didn't come to your office.
So I
didn't go to your office to come and say, Oga, hey, I'll just come and do Sai Baba. Oh yeah.
So even though you can imagine, I get calls from behind that. A lot of people think that they're multi-millionaire. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
If somebody calls me now and say that they are coming to see the honorable council, I'm like, is it in Nigeria or which one? If it's in Nigeria, I will say you can go. But if it's here, you better say WhatsApp.
The beauty of this kind of country is and the reason why millionaires and rich people and want to sleep very well here is because they provided the welfare infrastructure for people to survive. If you remove the welfare safety net for the citizens, you're going to have chaos that is evolving, the social chaos.
Absolutely.
That is evolving in the country today. So that is why I subscribe to that Yoruba adage that 1 millionaire, one wealthy person in the midst of poor people is actually a poor person. That is a very ignorant person as well. You need wealth trickle down into society. Not arrogate it to private pockets.
Wow, I think it's been quite an interesting evening, really, talking to you and being able to find this information. So, this is the kind of thing that we actually want. Like I said to you, we don't want to play identity politics. It's about what are you bringing in? Because if you look at it right now, when I see, your honorable self, people like Kemi, and then some others, who have been, because I think I know about 2 or 3 other person, there is another lady, Lade, that I'm looking to bring as well. So she's a councillor as well, and I know that, she's quite focused, she's quite visionary, just like you, and we want to bring these people down, to actually talk to everyone, so that people can see of, what is possible. Because quite frankly, a lot of Nigerians call United Kingdom home now. And so those days where people don't get involved, you don't even want to know. Like, politics belongs to, like, you think you're referring to some aliens on planet Jupiter, somewhere. But here, because there's a voice that actually represents. So we've seen people like Sunak, who's, of Indian heritage, he's been there, how he's able to sort of navigate his path. Don't necessarily, like I said, it's my, part of my own party, but don't necessarily agree with his own, policy and things, So, but at the end of the day, I myself, it's only in recent times I started taking interest as well, like, what is happening around. Because I think it was something that somebody said. He said, look, you're sitting down, you are looking. He said, some people are looking, some people are wondering. People don't even know what is happening. They will just say, oh, something has changed. That from now on, you have to wear oxygen mask. There's a meter now. You have to pay. Then you are thinking, how is it possible? Where did it come from? But those things, when they introduce, sorry about it, but when they introduce, those policies were introduced, for instance, obviously this is not real, but nobody was interested. You're just thinking about, now in the UK now, hey, I have bills to pay. I have to go to work. I'm paying these bills. Then you just find out that all of a sudden people are driving it. They are making decision, life-changing decision on behalf of other people. Even in Nigeria, like actors that I felt should be in politics, they are the one chasing money.
Exactly. You see, I'm glad that you said this thing, because that's one of the things I told people, the churches I spoke to, the church congregations, because they are making policies that are impactful on us as a community, and we're not there at the table to be part of.
We're not represented. We're not represented.
Exactly. To be so.
Nigerian churches in most cases, they are looking for places they can use a place of worship. They're looking for place of worship, but there is nobody there.
Yeah, we're looking for place of worship, but we're not using the congregation size to our strength.
No, at all. No, at all.
We're not using it.
It's not been converted.
Thank you.
Ask those people how many of them actually vote. They don't even know whether.
Thank you.
They know that there's Labour and the Conservative Party.
I think before the last election, we had to go and beg them in churches, please vote, because it's going to impact on you. The decisions that come out from this election will impact on you going forward. They're going to make decisions that will impact on your children's children. So if you do not
vote, everything,
exactly. So if you do not make the right effort to vote, don't mourn in future when the policies are biting you on the backside, because you do not even vote. Because I used to wonder when Nigerians, for instance, will say it around me, oh, I don't be so proud. Oh, me, I don't vote. I've never voted before. And I'm thinking, this is ignorant talk. If you don't vote, they're going to make decisions that affect you, and then you are going to be start mourning while you're eating your eba in the house. That, oh, look at what they did to my child in school. Don't mourn.
Those decisions are taken by. That is why people have to be engaged.
Exactly.
In this sort of thing. If you're not in politics, because they will make policies, educational policies.
Yes.
And that will be, look at some of the challenges that we actually were. I'm not going to go into it in detail. Where they will tell that your children should get up to things, or they will say that they want to start teaching your children certain things. But because we're not there, we are like, no, you think your decisions it starts in your house and between your husband and your wife or whatever, and then you think that is it.
Yeah, but you see, today, this is why people to say ignorance is bliss. Yes, you're in bliss, and you think that you're just living in the box.
You're okay, yeah.
You're okay, but you don't realize that around you there's fire. So, and and ever since I got elected, some people have reached out to me that have really been an inspiration to their children. I remember a friend calling me from London, and he said, Leko, my daughter wants to know that I really know you. And I was like, where is this? So I said, why? He said, because he didn't believe it that his 18-year-old daughter was asking him, are you sure you're friends with him? Because he said, obviously, my story was on the BBC website that I'd won, and they were checking it. And he said, he now called me to prove it. So he said, because his daughter is now feeling encouraged to go into politics, that if your friend could win in a predominantly white area, we live in London.
Exactly. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
On a final note, really, let me just quickly say this. I think our time is fast spent because we're supposed to have 1 hour, but I'm really enjoying it because this is what this program is supposed to be about. It's not just about, it's supposed to be engaging, bringing out things, we're not just here to entertain. The idea is that you're going to come up with something. There is nothing. One of the key things is this. Look at when you went in there. They already told you that don't worry. Maybe about 2 or 3 times. You maybe that's like almost another 6 years. Before you now finally got in there. If you had believed that, you wouldn't have contested. If you had believed that Obama, I'm not his fan. Although with Obama, I did a bit of, identity. I want to champion. I see if I'm from Kenya. In fact, that time I became a temporary Kenyan.
Obama is my guy any day as a Democrat.
But the truth of the matter was that if you look at it at that time, Hillary was supposed to win.
Yes, Hillary was
because when they were doing the primaries, all the from both parties, independents and whatever, from all the different parties, they came together. There was this charity somewhere in New York, so they stood across. They stood on the street. Everybody, just horizontally. Okay, Guess where Obama was standing? Obama was in the last person in the corner. In fact, he was half of his body. They showed.
He became the future president of the country.
He was the last person at that time. You know, he was a senator.
It was a rising.
Guess who was in the middle? Who was the anointed one? It was Hillary. Hillary was, you know, right. They put out there, oh yeah, everything, all the pictures I saw afterward. The only reason I remember that was when Obama won, because it was like, where's this coming from? I remember that. So there have been other black people. There have been other black people who have contested.
Oh,
you know, at that time as well. That, you know, in fact, they were so embarrassed. In fact,
Jesse Jackson and other people.
Jesse Jackson was one of them. So you know, when you look at that, honestly, if you are to make decision, you will be like, this guy is just doing it for clout, you know, so that they can say that, you know, in Nigeria now, for some, I have a very good friend of, I would say is our common good friend now, Tokwe, who went for, you know, contested, right? So he's a presidential contestant. Now, somebody told me, said that now that, you know, in Nigeria now, some people will just say they to their contesting, so that when they go to parties, they will just say that former presidential contestant. I'm like, man, you can't beat Nigerians, man.
You put the business card for it.
Please, anyway, so before I say goodbye, but let me ask you, is it possible for me to use, I said, so if I go to a party, so they can introduce me to, I said that the friend of the councillor of Labour, no, I will change it.
We'll change it to Tony.
You know, so it's been a pleasant evening, you know, so I just really want to thank you for coming down, for talking, you know. So now is a sign of things to come, because tomorrow you and I are going to be here, not on the big mic now. So we've gotten that out of the way. You know, we've gotten that out of the way now. We're now going to be trashing some issues, you know, across the globe. That is what the G Niger, you know, so we've had to change the name from G Niger, you know, News Review to G Niger, you know, News Scope. You know, so the idea is that we just wanted to have this scope where we are across the globe, you know, having, you know, several, you know, guests alongside, you know. So I'm really happy that I'm going to be bringing in as a co-host, you know, so that you know, invariably,
I just a lot of good guests as well, so don't worry.
So we're going to be bringing in, I want people to be able to dial in, because there are issues in this country and there are issues in America, Canada. A lot of things are happening. I told you about some of them. The security issues in Nigeria, man, is I think sometimes you can become desensitized to how things are happening. You know, there's so much you know, horrible things happening. Now, it's not just Nigeria. It's not just Nigeria, you know, in some place, but there's this thing about Nigeria, because where we are, Nigeria, you know, our population is like over 200 and something million. Basically, that is almost more than half of the population of the entire America that sits in a continent. You know, so the truth of the matter is that we have so much to talk about, and the election in America is coming up. You know, that's going to be part of our, you know, good focus as well, so that we can hammer Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Yes, so that's, don't worry. Which Kamala?
You didn't hear what I said? I said Kamala.
Somebody don't come my fellow Democrats, Kamala. We're okay. We're going to trash you guys. We're going to, guys, don't worry.
Okay, all right, don't worry. We'll see that. I will buy you a bottle of wine for the swearing in for
you should. You owe me.
24.
Yes,
so, 24.
No, I don't want a bottle of wine. Keep it. I thought you were going to have it for Kamala. So I don't want.
Who's voting for Kamala? Nobody's voting for Kamala.
No, Kamala is the one, though.
No. I don't know who you are calling Kamala. I know Kamala. I don't know about Kamala.
The viewers can already see that we are the different political divides. So
don't worry. So I'll wait for you tomorrow. Don't worry. Yeah, that's what it is. Then don't worry. I'll go and
like they say, variety is the spice of life. So it's good.
That's the idea. I have a big ledger already that I'm writing my points. Don't worry.
But don't worry, you see, as I was the audacity of hope in Stevenage, Kamala will be the audacity of hope.
I know this one. We're already doing 7-day fasting, self. In fact, serious work. This one, it will work. We are on the Lord's side. We are on the Lord's side. Don't
Only
worry.
one. Man,
Thank you
to the
so
text,
much.
man. All
It's
right,
been a,
bro.
it's been a pleasure, and having you, Akin. So
Oh, thank you.
tomorrow we're gonna our program tomorrow is gonna be for like I think between 8 and 9. So
Okay.
please just look out. So we'll be sharing out this in itself. So I will
All right.
send the information to you. So I really do appreciate everything, and thank you for taking the time out to be here. And
Thank
take
you, bro.
care, and God bless.
God bless. Love to everyone. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Hello. Okay, if you just hang on a second.